Hello, listeners, and welcome to KMUZ's Willamette Wake Up Show's Girly Pop Politics with me, your host, Jane Tichenal, where we discuss all things local. A little over a month ago, Youth Era Salem Drop had to close its doors. As one of the only drop-in mental health centers in Salem, this had a devastating effect on the 300 young people the center was currently supporting. The center provided a safe after-school space for young people facing mental health challenges, homelessness, addiction, and other difficulties. On today's episode, we will be joined by Chrissy Oyervides, Youth Era's Senior Director of Programs, about the recent Salem Drop closure and the impacts it has on our young people today. Chrissy, thank you so much for joining Girly Pop Politics.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, and thank you for having me.
Can you tell us just a little bit about yourself and how long you've been working with Youth Era?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Chrissy Oyervides. My pronouns are she, her, Senior Director of Programs for Youth Era. I've been working since 2018 for Youth Era, and Youth Era has been in action since 2011. The lived experience I bring to this job is I'm a first generation immigrant, born in Honduras. I am also a suicide survivor and a child abuse survivor as well. And so that's really what shapes why I care so much about this work. Was someone who was homeless when I first came to Eugene, Oregon. So experienced houselessness. And so I just really care about this type of work and the space that we had because I was one of those youth who desperately needed a space like the drop-in center.
So I want to start by painting a picture sort of the last 4 weeks for you. Walk me through what it was like telling the kids about the closure and some of the concerns that you heard from them.
Yeah, well, I have to really give a lot of praise and grace and thankfulness to our employees, actually. Myself and Tia Barnes, who is our COO, when we first found out, we were trying to navigate. Okay, is there any other alternative route to fund the drop, right? So that's where if you're in nonprofit organizational work, you're trying to figure out, can we save this? Turned out we couldn't, so we needed to have that discussion first with the employees. And I will say all of our employees have lived experience. So the same way that it matters to me, it really mattered to them. And then they were the ones to kind of meet and speak with the youth directly. A lot of the initial kind of response was just like, well, of course, because I think for young people, it's getting to a point of a level of apathy sometimes where it seems like even in our news cycles and everything that everything is just going downhill. So it was kind of like that apathetic response of just like, of course, like what could I expect? Like the thing I love is gonna go away. But over time, like over that week and 2 weeks and the whole time that we were like closing, I think it became more of like them sharing like what they were concerned that they would lose. So for a lot of young people, it was quite literally food, quite literally a space to charge like your phone and to be able to get on the internet. There's not a lot of spaces anymore that you can just get on the internet to do your homework, to check in with friends, to be on social media, to do things that a lot of us would consider, part of our daily life. And then of course, like connection to community that was like coming out to be like, well, where are we all going to go now? How are we going to find each other? What about the groups we've been doing? So it definitely gets to this place where it's like, once you've realized this is really ending, what are we going to do now? Where do we go?
I'm interested in that specifically because oftentimes, and even now, like recently in Kaiser, there was this community conversation on what does it look like to support families or to support teenagers. But at the exact same time that we are closing centers that are literally doing the work that we're talking about. I'm just kind of curious if you feel like the actual work gets lost in the discussion and it like lacks sustainable movement.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's a problem statewide too. I think it's a systemic issue where on paper we as like legislative and even having programs like System of Care, which is meant to be a governance structure that's meant to connect community with the systems and smooth things out. It's like you can pretty much see that there's a on paper statement and then there's the action. And unfortunately, as we know, everything really does tie back to funding. Recently, with like pretty strict funding cuts, you feel it trickle down no matter what. And so I definitely do think that there's a lot of discussion, and what you hear most is, well, we want higher education results, and we want to lower suicide, and we want the youth to have a better mental health. But at this very same time, you'll be having those conversations and seeing that funding is getting cut behind the scenes and things are closing. And so, as a community, we really do have to ask ourselves, what can we do to be more grassroots where we're not relying so strictly on these funding streams that can be tightened at any time or moment? More grassroots, more being there for each other.
Yeah, I mean 100%, and I think that's really the era that we're in because I mean when I was doing the research, Pacific Source, which administers Medicaid in Marion and Polk counties, funded about 90% of the drop-ins operations, right? And so when they told you that they were going to be pulling almost all of it, it's the lives of these kids and the staff, their well-being, their ability to survive is tied to these quotas, these numbers, right? And so I guess I'm wondering whose voices and what perspective is missing in these rooms where these decisions are being made ultimately.
Yeah, that like is so that touches my heart because that's one of the toughest parts about my position is I'm the in between the funder and what they're collecting, which is usually just data on paper. How many physical people and unique unduplicated people did you visit versus the reality of the work, which is like if I actually meet meaningfully with 3 to 10 youth. And those 3 to 10 youth now have improved mental health and aren't self-harming and are getting a meal and have made friends and have learned social skills. It doesn't matter that it was 3 to 10 versus a funder wants us 120, 150, right? They want these big numbers and they want it in a data format, whereas this is more meaningful work that we're doing, just opening our doors, having the groups. So I think like what's missing is folks who are in the decision rooms. I don't know what happens, but you lose a little bit of the human. It's almost like you get so far removed from these real experiences of being hungry, of needing a sheltered place, of needing to learn how to make friends, being bullied at school and having one safe place, not having a safe home even, and this is the only place that you got to actually be yourself. You get removed from it, and so when you're in those decision making rooms, what we need storytelling. We need the voice of those young people. These decisions should be filtered through. Any type of decisions like this, where it is going to impact the community should have a say. There should be a filter process of like, is this really what we all want, or is this just a dominant ideal?
Quote from a Statesman Journal article by Whitney Woodworth. Youth Era founder and CEO Martin Rafferty said, "We've been asked to do less for kids at the exact moment they need us the most. Oregon didn't become the worst state in the nation for mental health by accident. It happened because we keep making choices like this." I'm wondering, what does that look like for staff who are asked to do so much work?
Yeah, I think our employees are so amazing and resilient and have been navigating a lot of these these are just, I think nonprofit organizations go through these challenges for sure. I think our staff at this point, all of us have made a commitment that we're getting way more serious about tracking what we're doing because that seems to be, so data seems to be the thing that will communicate worth. So previously, Youthera, the name, the brand, and everything we were doing, it spoke for itself. But this new kind of like generation that we're in right now, it's not enough that the youth are saying that this is a good impact. It's we have to have it on paper. So all of us have just made a brand new commitment this like year for 2026 in this first quarter that we're just taking it serious on documenting literally everything we're doing. So if we're doing street outreach, we know the date and the time that we did it and who did we visit, what did we give out. If we're doing tabling events, if we are one-to-one peer support with anybody, just even sharing our name or anything. We are just getting so strict about like, okay, we need to prove at this point daily the work that we're doing because nonprofit work and specifically social work like this, what looks like hanging out, right? So peer support can look like me picking you up. We stop at Dutch Brothers and we go and we paint by the river. That can look like hanging out, but what's really happening is I'm a trained peer support. I know how to ask specific questions. I know how to talk about goals with you. I know how to talk about mental health and I know how to refer you to a therapist because I'm not one, but I know how to do all that process and help you. What we're learning is we have to like quantify what that visit looks like to be able to get the approval and the funding that we need. So we're just taking a whole new approach and we're really just trying to document everything we do.
Curious, what does that look like for local communities to help fund nonprofits like Youth Era?
Yeah, well, doing things like what you're doing today is a great help because a lot of community members don't actually know that peer support exists. And oftentimes, if you do hear about it, you think about it through a clinical model. But peer support is actually a way more holistic, boots on the ground, culturally responsive method. And so I think sharing the word for sure. And then, when I think about funding, we really kind of need like our health programs, our behavioral health programs to see peer support and drop-in centers as a value. So other ways that community members that doesn't have a financial cost can help is by literally being on social media, by joining, I talked about like System of Care. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but System of Care is a local governance structure. All of the public is invited. You could go on, you could Google like System of Care and then your county. And this is where the government officials and your behavioral health providers and your doctors, clinicians, all those folks are in one space. Juvenile justice is there, education is there, all these systems are there. And the whole goal of that was that the community would also join. So they have to have public meetings, they have practice level work group, and they have the advisory council. And that is a space where if we got enough family members and enough young people and community people to actually voice, we need a drop-in center, then it gets documented and you're forced to move on it. You have to move on it. It gets documented, it's in legislature, and you have to move on a barrier that the community puts forward. A lot of people don't know that even exists.
Listeners, if you're just tuning in, this is Girly Pop Politics on KMUZ's Willamette Wake Up Show, talking with Chrissy Oyer Verdes, Youth Era Senior Director of Programs, about the recent Salem Drop closure and the impacts it has on our young people today. An article in the Columbia Gorge by Eileen Hymas quotes Al Barton, Executive Director of Mid-Columbia Center for Living, quote, "Costs won't vanish. They'll shift to jails, emergency rooms, and law enforcement. Without diversion or someone not checking on them day to day, they tend to come to law enforcement's attention. They tend to come to the hospital's attention." Do you feel like the burden shifts to hospitals and jails for young people in vulnerable situations?
100%. Thinking right here about the Salem Drop-In Center. Already we've had youth tell us like basically the only other space they can go is to the transit station where we know and it's well documented and well known by the police department that there's some child sex trafficking happening there. We know there's violence. We know, yeah, there's drug usage and etc. And that's the thing. It's like if you take away the safe spot, all that's left is the spot we used to go to or the spot that, is left for us, which happens to be a much more dangerous, which is going to lead young people to making, unfortunately, they don't have the space to make better decisions, so they're going to make worse decisions, which ultimately will lead to either being in the hospital or being in jail, being in juvenile justice. I mean, that you can literally you can see the pipeline for that to happen.
And we know that young people deserve more than that. Like they deserve safety and
Right.
consistency and, adults who have that lived experience. So what does it look like now? I mean, I guess for teenagers, for the young people that were working with Youth Era.
Yeah.
but we've kind of been discussing it, but it's really like, okay, without Youth Era, what does life look like for them? them.
Yeah, well, I'm really proud of our organization, and I'm proud of the folks who do fund us, like Oregon Department of Human Services. They have a program that they're funding. We have funding through Burn Recovery, which is Measure 110 funding. So fortunately, in the area, we're still able to provide peer support. We're still doing go bags with like hygiene products, food. We're still working with youth who are actively in recovery. So we're still in the area. We're just having to get very creative with how we are able to engage young people now, because before it's like you had the hub and you had people coming. Now we have to kind of like go and find and search, and young people are very strategic about where they quote unquote hide or hang out. And so we're having to be a little bit more strategic as well in finding them. But I'm very proud to say that we are still in the area. What it looks like for Youth Era, the org, is we have to continue to do what we're doing right here today. We have to get our voice out. You know, last night I was thinking about this interview and I said to myself, like, maybe there will be someone out there who is able to fund a drop-in center. It's like, 250,000. Maybe somebody out there has 250,000 and they want to open a center. But that's basically what it costs a year, for us to do that meaningfully. So right now we're just on the grind of we got to be on looking for grants and etc. so we can hopefully bring back the drop-in center.
Okay, so I just want to make that part really clear. Run a youth center is about $250,000 a year. There is a potential reality where the Salem Youth Drop could come back.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
100%. This was just one of those things where it was a surprise when we saw the funding cut we received. And it was like, okay, snap, can we do anything? But again, I do want to just say the climate right now for any nonprofit it's very difficult for funding. So we kind of do need a miracle in the sense of like we either need like braided funding or community funding, or you kind of need that superhero that is like Batman and just can do it. And I believe in that. I've seen things like that happen in other places, and so I believe that's possible. But in the meantime, we'll stick to our community peer support model, which just means we're actually literally in the community. We do our admin work from home, and then we make sure we're out in the street. And that's what we'll be for right now.
What do you wish the community would understand about this?
I wish the community would understand that youth it's not even about it being a privilege. It's like youth need this. It's called positive youth development. When young people have spaces to explore themselves, to be around other people their age, culturally appropriate, when they have the ability to learn about contributing back to society, you literally make the world a better place. And so what looks like a hangout spot, I just need the community to understand that's not what that is. What that is it's a development center. It is you putting money into the future of your children. You want your community to rise up. You want better citizens. You want people who aren't apathetic. You want young people who believe again and have hope again and are getting out and want to achieve their goals and it's a financial impact at the end too. It's like you want your city and your county to blossom, then you must water where it needs water. And right now I feel like we're kind of not tending to the garden at all.
Can you tell us what it looks like for youth who are undocumented as well? In particular, what does that fear look like when they are missing out on this support?
Yeah, so this was very important that I definitely wanted to hit on and share. So the drop-in center was a safe space for undocumented youth. So essentially, our staff were trained to know how to respond if ICE showed up at the door, etc. Like we literally had new policy, procedure. We have signs on the walls. We also were in the process of getting funding specifically for peer supports who are bilingual and Spanish speaking and had that as their lived experience. So I do want to just say, like, it is a loss that we no longer have that safe space, because now young people, especially if they were a young person who were experiencing like housing instability, now quite literally there won't be a spot that they'll have that they could probably just relax and not be in fear. And so I do want to say, like, you throw out that was a hit in the heart that we're not able to provide that at the moment. And I do want to say too, like that's another thing, when people think about like funding, where does money go to? Like money goes to those types of positions. Like Youthera, we were prioritizing hiring bilingual staff specifically to work with youth whose families might be undocumented to help the process and to help that young person to do groups in Spanish, etc. So yeah, I feel like we're kind of not tending to the garden at all.
What can we do right now? Right? Like if someone wanted to help up, step up and help right now, what can they do?
Well, they can absolutely reach out to us at Youthera. I mean, we have volunteer opportunities. We will always accept donations, and donations go a long way. I do want to speak to that. Like right now, we have very limited funding for like those go bags and for the hygiene products and for even our staff to like be able to do stuff with youth. So donations are very meaningful to us. That would be an immediate thing. And I think to go ahead and Google and search about system of care and figure out how you can actually take your story, your voice, and make an impact on legislature.
Chrissy, thank you so much for coming on to Girly Pop Politics. This was a great discussion, and just thank you for your work and your passion. It's really important. So, for listeners who want to check out how you can help, use era.org and sign up to volunteer, donate, do what you can. Chrissy, thanks again.
Thank you so much. It was awesome to be on.
Thank you, listeners, for tuning in to Girly Pop Politics on CAMUZ's Willamette Wake Up Show's Public Radio.